Hello? 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 Hello. This is our daily broadcast. How are you today? I hope you're well. I know I am. Yep, I'm feeling pretty good. It is 8:08 a.m. of a Tuesday, the 11th of June. And it's a good morning. And good morning to you too, by the way, whoever you are. I think I'd like to make today's episode about gaslighting, the psychological abusive tactic that abusers use. Gaslighting. Rose lighting, if you're nasty. Now, what it is essentially is when your abuser is trying to convince you that they're not the abuser, so they sow confusion and doubt in your mind, which is fair enough. Fair enough, which is a concept which is easy enough to understand, is what I mean. But it actually is far more insidious than that. I don't even know if this is within the category of gaslighting. I'm assuming it is. But what I experienced was what I think is a far more severe version of gaslighting, where it wasn't so much that my abusers were trying to sow doubt, but they were trying to convince me and everyone around me that not only were they not the abusers, but I was the abuser. And they tried that tactic relentlessly and aggressively. So I want to talk about gaslighting as it relates to what happened and what unfolded in the last 3 months since February 2024. And that's, oh no, I think it might have been early March. I don't know, but the reaction to my reaction to what had happened with me and my family and their stonewalling and their abuse was to go on Facebook and to let everyone know about their abuse. And the way that my family reacted to that was this relentless campaign to make sure that it is understood that Andrew Toke is the abuser and Andrew Toke is the thief, actually. Disgusting, deplorable, malicious tactics by a family of abusers. My family, on my father's side, so Majid Saeed Taw, Maroon Saeed Taw, Charbel Saeed Taw, aka Charles Charbel, Ghada Saeed Taw. These are the specific four people that gaslit me and not broke or contravened the law, but misled police officers and the entire Toke community in a desperate attempt to make sure that it is understood that I am the abuser and I am the thief. They never engaged with what I was saying. Whoa, what? I don't care what Andrew's saying. He's the abuser. You should see all the mean things that he said about his auntie Rada. Oh, I called her the big C-U-N-T word. And I mean that. From now to the rest of my life, that's the person that she is for what she did to me and my brother. The attitude, the lack of support, the fact that she assisted my Uncle Charlie in calling the police against me. Oh, she will say that it was a welfare check. Of course it was a welfare check. Yeah, that's why my Uncle Charlie was teasing and mocking me after the police came. My Auntie Rada always assists my Uncle Charlie and my father Majid in abusing other people. That's what she's good for. She's just used. She's a pawn for abusers. She doesn't think about the moral or ethical implications of her actions. She just does what the abusers around her tell her to do. Rada, call the police. Make sure Andrew's home. Rada, give me Dorne's mail. Rada, Speak to Andrew. Andrew's getting angry. Andrew's upsetting me. He's abusing me. He's upsetting you. Fix it, Rada. And what does she do? The obedient slave of Charlie, Maroon, and Majid. Obedient. Ooh, she loves it. Right? Because she needs that validation from her brothers. When I sent the family a grotesque, disgusting, sort of vile message, really from the depths of like my most bestial, animalistic sort of self, where I really gave it to the family, and I sexualized close relatives in my family because I heard them being sexualized by my uncle Charlie, Zuzu, and my father, of course. Remember, my father's a sex addict, and Charlie has sex with prostitutes while I'm passed out on his couch. There's that extreme sexual proclivity as well. Yeah, and I apologize. I don't know why I go back there, but uh, I think sexual hyperactivity or that thing is also part of mania. And perhaps when I feel that I'm getting a little bit worked up, my mind sort of goes to that offensive kind of place. But it's also a place that's comfortable for me to go to because I've seen it so often displayed by my family members. Charlie, Maroon, not Maroon. He sometimes he'd get angry, but he'd never go sexual. Amizuzu did. My father always did, especially in reference to my mother, and Charlie, of course. He's a sleaze as well, and so you sort of just get the picture of these people that refuse to acknowledge their misdeeds, but are experts at making sure, at deflecting their own, at deflecting responsibility. Right? And I think that's what a master gaslighter does. They deflect. No, it's not my fault, it's your fault. When I removed my Uncle Charlie as director of Happy Lane, and by the way, when I say I removed my Uncle Charlie as director, what I mean is I revealed that he committed fraud. I engaged a solicitor to send his accountant, who assisted him in getting the 484 or whatever form filled out and submitted into ASICs to change the director. We didn't believe that he did anything malicious. He was just told what to do by my Uncle Charlie. And what my Uncle Charlie told him to do was basically change the director from Maroon to himself, to Charlie, without Maroon's consent. And so I revealed that to the accountant that was incorrect, and he didn't have any backing documents to prove that, to show that Maroon resigned. And Maroon was telling him that I never resigned and I wasn't aware. So once that happened, right? So I suppose I was key in him being forced to resign, I'd say. And he reacted to that by making sure the family knew that I was the one that committed fraud, and that he only removed himself as director as a favor to his brother, who he'd ripped off and sort of, talked crap about all his life. It was just odd that he would say that, but I suppose I was just so naive. It was clearly a lie to me, and so I didn't really engage with it. I'm just like, okay, that's clearly not true, and the family obviously saw what happened. His family, so Agada, Nawal, even Maroon, for some reason, thought that my Uncle Charlie voluntarily stepped down as director for the family. It was odd that they just believed that. the level of gullibility is so surprising. But I think it's, I don't know, not surprising, given how good Charlie is at lying and deceiving people. I suppose one of the reasons why we never really had a good relationship was the fact that Charlie could never put one over on me. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's quite odd to think about now. But yeah, when I had him removed as director, he informed the family that he did that voluntarily and that I did not have any sway in his decision. And in fact, I'm a maggot. And he's just going to wait for me to rip them off. And he convinced the family that I ripped them off with the help of Danny. Even though I had given them money, even though I arranged the loans, the loan contracts, and I was able to secure the funds, and Maroon gave me access to the bank account. So they'd ask me, for money, and I'd give it to them. And I never lied, and I always insisted on having everything in writing, and I was very transparent, and there's a long slew of dozens, if not hundreds of emails to prove the amount of work that I've done and where all the money went to. Danny has them all, but what did he choose to display to the public? That I'm a thief. When he knew how passionately I was, sort of trying to convince him and the family that the real thief and the person that you need to look out for is Charlie. But Charlie is a gaslighter, and he's a master gaslighter. No. You see, it's not me, Charlie. I am friends with everyone at St. Charbel's Catholic Parish. They love me. They're in love with me. It cannot be me that is wrong. Look at Andrew with his weird Aussie wife. They don't even go to church. Not only do I go to church, but I'm contracted to the church and they love me. You got to listen to me, right? And they did. When I was advertising, when I was trying to make the extent of my father and my uncle's abuse known, I went to the church first because I was never comfortable with his position in the church, because I knew that he was using that as a way for him to cover his abuse. He identified early on the utility of being so intimately involved in the Maronite church. And he's a maniac, he's a person that is interested in power and having power over people. And he's got no issue with lying and deceiving, and he's great at talking. And by the way, he lies and deceives himself. So I'm sure he would have told everyone at the time, February 2023, which when he was removed as director, he would have told everyone that it was me and that stole, and I was the bad sort of fruit, let's just say the bad apple. And everyone believed him. And then later that year, once I realized the extent of my Uncle Charlie's abuse, I tried to help my Uncle Tony. And one of the first things that was evident is that Tony was a product of himself being gaslit. So remember, he doesn't have control of his emotions, and he, will tell you that, and it's evident, and he has medication for that. And he's a paranoid schizophrenic. So how do you say, the feedback loop for someone in my Uncle Tony's condition is so critical. He yearns positive feedback. He's confused and he's overwhelmed and he sees things. So it's essential that his illness is affirmed and he's in a safe and sort of like a safe space, let's say. But he is in a lion's den of gaslighting abusers. And so they don't see him and his sickness. They see him being angry as a reaction to their abuse. So my Uncle Charlie, one of the most uncomfortable things to witness is my Uncle Charlie comfortably just chatting with his brother. That's when you reveal the abusive sort of dynamic, right? The only side that the public sees is the side that Charlie wants the public to see. But behind closed doors, he's extremely vicious, malicious, and abusive. And when you see Charlie talking to someone like Tony, you know that he's not trying to sort of engage with him on any meaningful level, but he's trying to let out his own anger on Tony. Tony, the hell are you doing? Tony, get that. Tony, just the tone and the attitude, right? Nipping, poking, just like his father, Saeed, my grandfather, would poke at his wife, right? To elicit a response. That's all he does, right? And so he'd poke at Tony, and then Tony would react aggressively because it's not pleasant to be poked at and to be treated like that. And so he'd lash out, swear, and because he knows, because he's engaging with other people on an emotional level, right? Charlie would say, well, what? I'm just saying, Tony, get this. But no, it's his tone. That's what someone in Tony's condition is reacting to. It's the emotion, right? You're speaking to him disrespectfully. You are speaking to him aggressively. Your tone is inappropriate, right? Your tone will elicit an aggressive response from someone that is not control of their emotion, that is not in as much control of their emotions as you are. And someone like my Uncle Charlie knows that, and he gets off on controlling people through their emotion. He likes that because he understands that he doesn't have control over his emotions. So when he can make people lose control of their emotions, it sort of gives him this kind of sick pleasure because it affirms his pathology, let's just say. But all he is ultimately is a gaslighter that cannot engage with their misdeeds in any meaningful manner. There was a AVO out on Charlie for the protection of Tony, and within 6 months there was an AVO out on Tony for the protection of the entire family. Because they had an argument at my grandfather's house in Villiers Street, and when the cops are called, they always look for someone to blame, and they always blame the most vulnerable person. They weren't interested in helping Tony. They weren't interested in understanding that he lashed out because they had triggered him, and they were irresponsible in the way that they communicated with him. So now there's an AVO out on Tony, but there's no AVO out on Charlie, even though Charlie bashed him in the head with a stone pestle and broke his finger. That's the issue that I'm having, right? This is the pinnacle. This is a really concerning issue with gaslighting in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney. And a church leader, Charlie Saeed Toke, is a gaslighter and an abuser. And he's able to achieve, he's able to use his power and influence that he gets from the church to convince people in the community that he's a good person, which prevents him from getting into trouble. The St. Charbel's Parish, one of the priests wrote a letter, a character reference for Charlie, which is fine because based on what the priest knew about Charlie, he's fine. But Charlie's bipolar, I suppose. He's got a dark side, and perhaps the reason why he needed that character reference was because, that dark side sort of came out, and yeah. So the church, to my mind, just assisted him in um, not taking responsibility for his actions. And when I um, made the church aware of, his misdeeds and his abuse, he just, yeah, did what an abuser does. No, 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 no. My nephew Andrew Toke is crazy. I've not seen or interacted with him in 15 years. Everything he's saying is false. It's false. It's wrong. In fact, I've got an AVO out against him. You know what I mean? That's his tactic. That's what he does. Which is, I mean, I know that that's what was going to happen. And I suppose this podcast is to make people understand the kind of person he is, but also a real world example of what gaslighting is. And so when you are engaging with someone, or when you're having an argument with someone and they basically shut off, they don't want to speak to you, that they don't answer your phone calls, but they are telling everyone around you, right, that you're a bad person and all that sort of stuff. That's stonewalling, but that's also gaslighting, right? So they know that if they engaged you directly, they'll fail, right? Because they're in the wrong. So rather than them engaging with you and thinking about their misdeeds, they block communication with you, and they go on a relentless campaign to make sure that it is understood that you are the bad one. That is gross, that is gaslighting, and that is wrong, and we should not do that. Yeah, so it's fine if there's an AVO out on my Uncle Tony, like, because I don't think that it was ever a good idea for him to live with his sisters and brothers because of how toxic they are, right? For Tony, he's a sponge, right? He's a reflection of the environment around him. The fact that he was out on the streets should tell you the kind of family that he has, and the kind of support that he has. Remember, when stuff was getting bad with Tony, rather than helping him, they wanted to abandon him, right? They called Martkholi Salam, an old lady who just found out that her son had an incurable brain disease. They called her just after her son's diagnosis to ask if she can take care of their dangerous, unhinged, paranoid schizophrenic brother. Palming off responsibility to someone else, refusing to acknowledge that they are the problem. Classic gaslighting, don't you think? Yeah, it's a really bad habit, and it's rife in the Lebanese community, and it is, I don't know, done mostly. Yeah, no, it's common. I want to say it's done by like uncles and fathers and stuff, but no, it's bosses, it's friends. You know how in a friendship group, there's always one leader, and that leader could be like a gaslighting jerk to you, and it could be a boy, it could be a girl from the age of 16 to 60. Right? Gaslighting is a very common problem. Oh, and when you gaslight in the building industry, people's lives get ruined. Right? People take that attitude into construction, into work, and they say that, defects, right? You're the contractor, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's a gaslighting tactic as well. No one wants to take responsibility. That's where you get a lot of gaslighting from, I don't think that there's an issue with taking responsibility. There's certainly a great utility in taking responsibility for your actions, because once you do, you humble yourself in front of someone else, which is what you're supposed to do as a Christian, right? But also you learn and you grow from that, from humbling yourself, right? Because you have to acknowledge, oh, I screwed up and I have to fix that. And that's immensely powerful, because coming out the other side of that, you're a better person, right? If you refuse to acknowledge your issue and blame other people, are you going to get better? No, you're going to stagnate and stay in the same hole. Just like Halim and Mansour from the company Osco, AUSCO. There's actually a lot of Oscos. This Osco is in Greenacre or Chalora. It doesn't matter. They won't be affected because they're so poor that they don't have an internet presence and they just do jobs with their friends. But that's a great example of gaslighters that are victims of their own bad attitudes, let's just say. I used to work for Osco 12 years ago. Within that 12 years, I exceeded the revenue of Osco because I'm ambitious, you know. I stopped and I had a mental breakdown. You know, it wasn't great, but I kind of realized that the people that I sort of grew up and, you know, were taught to kind of admire were sort of mediocre. And I wanted more than mediocre. And sorry, they were worse than mediocre. They were mediocre at their best, right? But then they do terrible things like call the police on me when I was trying to get help from them. Um, I think that they are gaslighters. I think that they've done a lot of damage to the workers around them, and to their contractors. I think that they should be ashamed. And I think they should take some courses on public speaking, you know, to really help with their confidence. Don't be a gaslighter, you know. I understand that, uh, you know, a lot of people believe that, you know, I did bad things, and but by the way, I did, and I'm not perfect, and I did a lot of things wrong, and my family absolutely has good reason to be upset with me, but it doesn't, you know, make it okay what they did and what they're doing now. I told them that at the beginning, and I told the entire community that for me, this was about promoting awareness for domestic violence, right? And victims of domestic violence. For me to produce this podcast and devote one episode to just the concept of gaslighting, I think is a great, great, great way for me to sort of show that I'm really kind of how do you say, I'm really putting my money where my mouth is on this issue, because I really do think that it's a big and important issue. The overall issue really being domestic violence in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney, abuse in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney, the lack of awareness of mental health in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney. I'm gonna go straight to the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney. Sorry, it's on you as well as me. Obviously, it's like I have to take responsibility. But you guys, you know, screwed the pooch as well. I'm sorry to say, you know. I mean, I didn't have a dad, right? Drugs, jail, all that stuff. So it was the community's responsibility. Where were you, St. Charbel's Parish Punchbowl? You know, my mother tried to get in to that school. I remember in 1992. She was refused. I couldn't go to St. Charbel's. I was denied because my mother wasn't making an income, because my father wasn't around and she didn't know what he did, or she didn't want to say what he did. So she just said that, oh, he doesn't work. And so, you know, I didn't get into St. Charbel's Parish Punch Bowl, which, yeah, it doesn't matter, but I find that so interesting because if but by the way, the continuation of that story is that she learnt from that mistake at St. Charbel's Parish Punch Bowl. And when she went to get interviewed for St. Maroon's in Dulwich Hill, she told the teachers or the principal, whoever she was speaking with, that my father did work and he did make money. So we were able to get into St. Maroon's Dulwich Hill. But isn't that interesting to think about? That this is me, my culture, my community, and my mother was single, and didn't have any income, and she had to lie in order to be allowed into a school from her own community because of what my father did to her. It's just, God. And then, I come again, like what, uh, 30 years later, and I try to get your help, and you reward my Uncle Charlie? Come on. You know, what the hell's wrong with you? Church, parish. I want to say parish, but by the way, I really want to clarify this. Uh, I'm just talking about administrative stuff. When I talk about Saint Charbel's Parish Punchbowl, I know that I've said some heightened things about it. And I know that, people can be uncomfortable with the church for many reasons. I hope that this isn't dissuade people from going to St. Charbel's Parish Punchbowl. This is me almost kind of like talking to a dear friend, you know? Right? It's like, come on, bro. I thought we were mates. Why didn't you let me come into your school when I was 4? Why did I have to? It's on that level. And I hope that that's clear. I'm the only person that can sort of speak like this to that parish is someone that's in the community that loves and respects that community, right? I mean, I hope so. I love that. Well, I mean, it's nice. There's better. Sorry, it's the artistic sort of part of me. It's nice, but yeah, it just doesn't have the I don't know, this kind of quality that other sort of churches have, I think. But it's such a beautiful kind of symbol of our community and how far we've come and how much we've progressed and how much we've succeeded. And again, I want to stress that the problems that I'm talking about are champagne problems, right? Because of how well our community's done in the last 3 decades, right? And St. Charbel's Parish is a beautiful school. I love their trees. Are those cedars? They're not. They're not but they're beautiful. The area around the church is gorgeous, and the church itself is lovely and comforting, and the yeah, the singing's lovely. Yeah. So yeah, I think I just wanted to clarify that. I think that was important for me. So if you have a legitimate problem with someone, a big problem, and when I say big, if someone's abusing you, shouting, degrading you, right, and you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, and it's really kind of weighing you down, go to St. Charbel's Parish Punchbowl, but don't be weird about it. Go there during staffed hours and talk to their lovely receptionists and their priests. Don't do what I do and start sort of like putting posters out outside the church, like some maniac, like Martin Luther nailing his thesis to the church door. I think now that I think about it, the biggest mistake that I made was clearly going about things in a very crazy, unusual manner, which made it easy for my uncle to make it seem like I'm crazy and I didn't have a point, But it is such a lovely church, and the school next door has produced like some of the best that the Canterbury Bankstown Council has to offer, right? Yeah, the school's amazing and great. Yeah, no institution's perfect, but they're not supposed to be. It's a constant sort of battle for to be perfect, to be that ideal, right? But we're human and we err. All right, love you. Bye.